All right, welcome everyone to the Fountain Hills Town Council with our meeting. Please rise for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for invocation. Ms. Ducott from Baha'i, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Very good. Thanks for being here.
You're very welcome. Tonight, I'd like to share with you a prayer for peace from the Baha'i writings. O thou kind Lord, O thou who art generous and merciful, we are the servants of thy threshold and are gathered beneath the sheltering shadow of thy divine unity. The sun of thy mercy is shining upon all, and the clouds of thy bounty shower upon all. Thy gifts encompass all. Thy loving providence sustains all. Thy protection overshadows all, and the glances of thy favor are cast upon all. O Lord, grant thine infinite bestowals, and let the light of thy guidance shine. Illumine the eyes, gladden the hearts with abiding joy. Confer a new spirit upon all people, and bestow upon them eternal life. Unlock the gates of true understanding, and let the light of faith shine resplendent. Gather all people beneath the shadow of thy bounty, and cause them to unite in harmony, so that they may become as the rays of one sun, as the waves of one ocean, and as the fruit of one tree. May they drink from the same fountain. May they be refreshed by the same breeze. May they receive illumination from the same source of light. Thou art the giver, the merciful, the omnipotent.
Thank you very much. Roll call, please. Here.
Councilmember Cantino?
Here.
Vice Mayor Dickey?
Here.
Councilmember Elke?
Here.
Councilmember Hanson? Councilmember Brown?
Here.
Councilmember Leger?
Here. Excellent. Welcome, everyone. Mayor's report. I have a couple things. Want to make mention that the November 8th, 2011 election is approaching. Ballots were mailed out on October 13th to all registered voters. Town Hall and the Maricopa County Recorder's offices are opened as ballot replacement stations on October 17th. A ballot box is located at Town Hall on the second floor for those voters who do not wish to return their voted ballots by mail to the Maricopa County Elections Department. And also, we've got an announcement about the Rotaries here in town and their great work. They continue to strive towards eliminating polio from the globe. Next Monday, October 24th, is World Polio Day, and the two Rotaries in town, Fountain Hills Rotary Club and the Four Peaks Rotary Club, along with the Rotary International, have worked valiantly to eradicate polio worldwide. The goal is getting close to being achieved, only with a few pockets in the world remaining to be immunized. Rotary brings years of history for this initiative. Fountain Hills Rotary and Four Peaks Rotary are two of 32,000 Rotary clubs located in more than 200 countries that support this initiative. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation awarded $355 million to Rotary International in their global effort to eradicate polio, and $200 million of that grant is a challenge grant to Rotary. It is one of the largest challenge grants ever given by the Gates Foundation and the largest received by Rotary in its history. A polio-free world will be Rotary's ultimate gift to children everywhere. So continue the great work with the local Rotaries and the Rotaries around our wonderful country and around the world. Now we're going to have an opportunity and a special appearance by our federally elected Congressman David Schweikert, who will take my seat and share some words with us relevant to what's going on in Washington and perhaps how they apply here to the wonderful community, his home of Fountain Hills, Arizona. I'll give up my chair and scoot over. And
I don't know why this actually feels so wrong sitting in that chair.
Well, I don't want your back to all your constituents, so you'll feel more comfortable up here, trust me, than right there. So we welcome you here, and thanks
I'm used to talking from those things, not this.
Well, thank you very much for coming to Fountain Hills, and we welcome you.
Mr. Mayor, Council, this is actually one of the unique opportunities. I've never sat here. Hey, it's a great view. Maybe I'll stay. I was just, yeah, don't use the gavel. Actually, one of the quirky things they do in D.C., they just tap the bottom thing, yeah, and then get louder and louder. And eventually someone stops talking. I was actually going to touch just on a couple things. One, we've been doing some visits to some of the different municipalities around the congressional district, as well as those entities that sell tax-exempt bonds, so Salt River Project. And just trying to put on people's radar, there's a proposal moving out there. I'm assuming it won't get legs, but it is being promoted by a number of fractions that would actually take the tax deductibility on municipal bonds, and for upper income population would remove the ability to buy those bonds tax-free. One of the things that happens in today's world is if the community votes to do a bond issue, that those bonds are sold tax-exempt. It's also one of the ways we're able to sell bonds at such incredibly low interest rates, because you as an investor say, I'm investing my money, and I know I have no tax exposure on it. What happens if 40%, 60% of the consumers who are upper income who buy tax-exempt bonds for part of their investments and portfolio, all of a sudden that's taxable? The model tells us that they will turn to those of us in our communities and say, fine, we're still willing to buy the bonds, but we need much higher interest rates. And if you think that through, if you actually model it, what that ultimately means is today a bond that you and I can sell for 4%, now I have to sell at 6% to make up for that additional tax exposure. Well, ultimately the investor doesn't really care. You know, their take home ultimately is that 4%. That 2% additional comes out of our backside. It becomes the taxpayers in those municipalities are those folks who are within those tax-exempt entities that become a pass-through ultimately to the general fund, because we end up paying a higher interest rate. It passes through the investor in the bond, who ends up paying it to the general fund. So this is actually one of those things in a time where we desperately want infrastructure construction around the country. It's just trying to find ways you do that without also screwing up the mechanisms that finance that today. And I may have a certain, we were joking about this earlier, a certain sensitivity to it, having been the county treasurer, where I actually managed and was responsible for signing off on most of the bonds that were actually being issued in this county. So that's actually one of the reasons for visiting. Did you want to touch on the maps?
Sure.
And I've been trying to find a delicate way to say this without sounding too self-interested. Who's been to Yuma? It's a lovely community. Who's been to Colorado City? Yeah, that's actually probably only 3 of us. It's an okay community. It's not as lovely as Yuma. What do they have really in common with Fountain Hills? And that's sort of the mechanic I have great concern with. It's not that they're, they're wonderful people that live there, but we have a very unique lifestyle up here. And if you have a moment to spend some time with the map, I understand the difficulty. Back in 1992, 20 years ago, I was the state representative for Scottsdale and Fountain Hills, and I actually sat on the reapportionment redistricting committee 20 years ago. And it's tricky. And you have lots of partisan political interests. You also have certain personalities. You have some communities that scream much louder than others. You have those groups that organize, and then you also have the classic battles between certain tribal communities, certain agricultural interests, certain rural interests, and you put that all into one pot and stir it. It's a tough job. But if you go and look at the map that's closest to us, the concept that a congressional district would go from Yuma, Arizona, up the side of the state, and then this arm would reach across the center of the state and then come down where there's really no population. It's basically a little arm reaching down to grab our community. And there's actually 4 or 5 examples like this in the map. For those of you who take an interest in it, who have the opportunity to express your concern either to your elected council are to the members of the Independent Redistricting Committee. We probably only have 2 weeks left to express our concerns. I ask you to do that if it's something that hits your radar, because that is what we'll live with for the next 10 years. I obviously have a little personal interest, but I want it to be done for honorable reasons and not for, my self-interest. I look at it, and even things they're doing to Flagstaff, even the splitting of Yuma, to even some areas outside Tucson, there's probably a series of adjustments they could make. I just hope they're willing to hear our voices. So that's the last one I touch on. The last thing I'm going to give you is, I've been in Congress now 10 months, and it's sometimes hard to find the words to say thank you. There is sort of a sense of great humility that so many people were willing to trust you. But I've been heartbroken to come to the realization the budget, the debt numbers are much, much worse than I thought they were. And I'm pretty good at math. And a lot of this is because what's happening to us as a nation demographically. Every single day we have 10,300 people turn 65, and that's for the next 18 years. That's about 76 million of our brothers and sisters who will become 65. We are going to have to be disciplined. We're going to have to be forthright, and we're also going to have to tell the truth about the math to protect those populations and the promises we've made to them. Because right now we're on a collision course where our demographics and the reality of the money we have in the bank and the money that will be coming in are heading towards a collision course. We can fix it, but it's really going to take some very tough conversations. And so when you see us fussing with each other, and I know it's disheartening on occasion, you turn on the television and you see us doing this, a little deep dark secret. Often when we're done with the fussing and the television cameras go off, we're going to the gym together, or we're going to go have a cup of coffee. Because whether you be on the left or the right, there is becoming an understanding that we're in trouble, we're going to have to fix these things. The mandatory spending is consuming everything we are as a population. This year it will be about 64%. In about 4 budget years, it's going to be in the mid-70s. Of all spending will be in the mandatory. In about a dozen years, it would actually consume everything. There's no more military, there's no more discretionary, everything's in the mandatory spending. Obviously, we can't let that happen. And for a town like Fountain Hills, which really doesn't rely on much federal largesse, if any at all, your discipline as a town, as a council, is probably going to get rewarded, because we have lots of municipalities around the country that survive on federal programs. And those dollars are going to go away, because with the budget pressures, the entitlements, the mandatory spending will consume the available resources, and everything else in the discretionary will be squeezed down. So it's just one of those things to keep in the back of your mind as you watch the theater, but also the fussing of politics over the next couple of years. It's really about the fight for where the resources go and the resources we have. Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for letting me visit. This is actually a lot more fun than actually watching you on Channel 11. Thanks. I get my hug. Sorry, we've known each other forever.
Thank you again, David, for coming and being with us, and we wish you luck, and we'll be thinking of you and stay in touch. And Joyce, thank you for coming. I'll see you around. That was terrific. Great to have our electeds from other offices to come and visit us. In the past, I know it's been a while. We've had county superintendent here. We've had governor here. We've had other representatives, the federal office, I believe, here as well. Yes, we have. But it's been a while. So when we try to do that, and I think if we may even have a policy, we try to make sure it's not within a year of an election or 6 months of an election or something like that. So hopefully we'll have some more visitors come spend some time with us. Presentation by Cox Communications Government Relations Regulatory Specialist, Mr. Jonathan Babbitt, is up next, and we welcome you to the town of Fountain Hills. We're going to talk about the technological developments and Cox-sponsored charitable services programs that directly benefit our community here in Fountain Hills. So welcome to town. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for bringing your son. It's great to meet you this evening too, sir.
Thank you. That's Austin. He's in 4th grade. He's in his social studies class. They're talking about government, and he was excited to come out here and meet the mayor and the council members. And I appreciate you having me out here. And
Absolutely.
I promise you I won't take much of your time here. Let me go to where the slideshow from beginning. Well, my name is Jonathan Babbitt with Cox Communications. As you know, we have a license with y'all to operate our cable system here, and we like to come out every few years just to give you an update on what we're doing. And our last update was back in March of 2008, so it's about that time. Since our last update in the state of Arizona, we've invested about $500 million in our network, gearing up to introduce a number of new services. Just on comparison, depending on the configuration of our network, we can deliver speeds of up to 2 gigabits of data service to end users, whether that's at a business or a home. We have a very robust network with redundancies that are built in to protect data flow from interruptions. Moving on, some of our new things that have come out. Since 2008, we've introduced HD television. We have 100 unique channels. Also at the residential level, our fastest internet speed is 50 megabits. We are testing speeds in the 200 megabit range. You can see in the picture there, we're developing our stores to resemble somewhat of what an Apple store might appear like. And the reason for that is because as we're introducing new services, it's really necessary for our customers to come in and test drive our products. And so they need this type of environment to get to know our products and how to use them and speak with our customer service professionals. Right now we have these locations at Tempe Marketplace, Camelback Colonnade, and 301 East Bell, and our plan is to eventually move all our stores in that direction. What's next? You may have heard a couple of years back in the media or the trades that we've purchased quite a bit of spectrum in an FCC spectrum auction. And we've done this because our plan is to eventually roll out a 4G wireless product. The plan is to use that to reach areas where our cable network doesn't reach, and to launch services that tie in or overlap on the wireless platform. In other words, you can use your mobile phone to overlap your home phone, to control your television, so on and so forth. The question has come up is, will this require us to build new cell towers? Well, it's interesting to note that right now, Cox provides or connects most of the existing cell towers in the metropolitan area, so it won't take much construction along those lines. A couple of new things also is our IPG, our interactive programming guide. You may have noticed that we've upgraded it to give you more options and different categorization of where you put programming, how you search for it, and different options when recording. Also, we've rolled out TV caller ID. We're also looking at home networking and data solutions, which is kind of comparable to like the Geek Squad. We did that before, and then when the economy kind of went down, we kind of pulled back, and now we're getting ready to introduce that again. We're also looking at home security monitoring and alarm services, which we've launched in Tucson, and we're preparing to launch it in the market up here. This is my personal favorite thing to report on as we're out in different communities. In 2010, we provided more than $19 million in cash and in-kind support to Valley Charities. We have a Cox Charities brand, which is a nonprofit entity that our employees donate to through payroll deductions. In 2010, our employees donated more than $500,000, which we also have a Cox Charities board that consists of Cox employees. and we were able to give that money out to Valley Charities. And we're solely focused on K through 12 development and educational programs. And I can tell you we're in the middle of our drive right now and we've already surpassed that $500,000. So, I mean, it's pretty exciting. That, just a note, I don't need to go over those, but we've won numerous awards in our areas that we're pretty proud of. We're implementing proactive network monitoring and management, which is basically every device attached to our network is monitored from a standpoint of its functionality. So basically, if something's not performing well, we're able to proactively issue tickets on it, so we don't have to generate those calls and send texts out. And so there's a home certification program where our technician looks at a home before they leave it to make sure that everything's functioning optimally. That way we can roll less trucks. Moving along, real quick on Cox Business. Many people think of us as traditional cable company. We offer phone, video, and data services on the residential side, but we also have a separate entity called Cox Business that offers our products solely to businesses. We can offer any type of connectivity to our competitors. We can tie them in pretty much any way to the data and telephone networks that our competitors can in most instances for less money. A few of our larger customers are noted there. Interesting, Casa Grande, Buckeye, and Goodyear all use us as their primary telecom provider, and we save them a lot of money in doing so. So that was my sales pitch. This next slide just gives you a little bit of an idea of our financial investments in the Phoenix metropolitan area. We just built a corporate-wide data center. It was an $80 million investment that our parent company, Cox Enterprises, owns, and it uses as one of its 2 primary data centers nationwide, not just for Cox Communications, but also for newspapers, television, radio, autotrader.com, all of our subsidiaries. Also, in an effort to become more efficient, our parent company has done a competitive evaluation amongst all of Cox Communications to find out who's doing what well. And we have our Center of Excellence for Warehousing Operations here in the Valley, and also our Spanish Language Center of Excellence here. So what we've done is we've created more jobs by doing what we do well. And that is it. And I hope I didn't take up too much of your time. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Thanks, Mr. Babbitt. Is there a way to zoom in on that picture at all?
You know, I hope there's not.
Okay, yeah. I know there's some folks there we probably would recognize, but yeah, thanks for coming out here. Pleasure to have your son out here too. Do well in school, and it was pretty cool to see a congressman out here tonight, huh?
It was.
Yeah,
It was.
cool.
You heard the mayor. You got to do well.
But we probably have a couple questions for you, Mr. Babbitt.
Okay.
Any questions, Councilmember Brown?
Does Cox have any intentions on expanding their systems into the business world around Fountain Hills, in Fountain Hills proper?
Yes, sir. Mayor, council member, I appreciate that question. And we recently met with town staff to talk about that. And it's something that we're constantly looking at. And, you know, basically what I'm told is as soon as that does make sense to do so, we will do it. It's basically making sure that when we build out here that the businesses are going to use our services. And so it's sort of getting that group together to discuss, you know, what's it going to take to extend fiber to, you know, a business area, and who then is going to use our services when we do that. And so those discussions are ongoing, and as soon as it makes sense to do so, that's our plan is to do so.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And there were some areas I know we targeted, and I know that folks were looking at. We'll probably have some feedback on that before we get into the licensing continuation. Probably address that before that occurs. On the wireless deployment, because I know that might reach some of the businesses that are not currently served, and I know Cox was not the initial cable company out here. I think it was maybe Dimension Cable, and they specifically didn't go to the business areas initially, just to the residential, so there is some catch-up to do. But will that wireless deployment help serve some businesses that are not being served today?
Absolutely, and that's the idea. And so there's certain markets that are really set up to best launch those first throughout Cox Communications nationwide, and they're doing that in other markets that I guess are smaller than us, so they can kind of test the bugs. And as soon as that happens, we're planning on rolling it out here, and hopefully what we're told is it's something that we plan on doing sometime late next year.
Can you speak in the microphone on that date a
Oh.
little more?
No, I don't want to. I appreciate that, though.
So, I don't know if that's soon or not, but all right. How about service complaints? Are you the contact for for escalations if there's an issue that someone can't get resolution for?
Our department is, yes, sir.
All right, and do you have a number for the complaints if they're having challenges in getting things fixed?
I wasn't, shame on me, I wasn't prepared with that number, but it's a very simple report to pull.
Okay.
But I can tell you I know that we haven't had anything out of the ordinary. It's been, and since we've implemented these home certification programs and proactive network monitoring, our complaints have gone down quarter to quarter. So what we've seen is a trend where these our proactive programs are working. And
Okay.
so, but I can certainly get back and provide you with the number of complaints per quarter. And
Be good. I'm sure it is trending down, but Julie, I remember a family on Jacqueline that was having some trouble, and I haven't heard follow-up on that, but I suspect it's being taken care of. And it had been a challenge in the past, but as I had said, it has not been a challenge lately. So appreciate you paying attention, because obviously sometimes you're it.
Yes,
The
sir,
only
and
solution
I
you're
am
it.
very comfortable with my name and number being shared. So,
Okay. Good, John.
despite what might just happen now that I've said that.
Well, I share my number often, and it doesn't get called as much as you might think. But good. So, Julie, do we have that contact information, or how do folks, if they contact us, do we put them in touch with if it's a complaint that can't get remedied, through regular channels?
Yes, Mayor, we'll follow up and get that number and make sure that that's put on our website or someplace for people to access.
Okay. Got any other questions, council? Good, and thanks for playing a role in the community, and also to the employees for sharing dollars with our K through 12, and I'm sure there's specifically some dollars coming to Fountain Hills,
Absolutely.
and we appreciate that as well. And it's a pleasure to meet your son, and
Yes, sir.
thanks for coming out to Fountain Hills tonight.
Mayor, council members, thank you very much.
Yep. All right, next item, I have a recognition of outgoing Planning and Zoning Commissioner who cannot be here tonight, but I want to thank him formally as well. Mr. Jeff Mangels served on our Planning and Zoning Commission from October 2009 till September 30th, 2011, and he was an active commissioner and contributed his time and dedication to various issues brought before the commission and required skillful decision-making. So as a council and as a community, I think we all want to thank Mr. Mangels for contributions he made while serving on this very important Planning and Zoning Commission. So, Mr. Mangels, hope you're feeling the love out there. Yeah, I know you're out of town tonight, but we thank you very much for serving on our commission. Now we have a call to the public. Any speaker cards tonight?
No, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Now move on to our consent agenda. I'll read the items, and then we'll look for a motion. Item 1 is consideration of approving town council meeting minutes from October 6th. Number 2, consideration of approving purchase for extrication concepts in the amount of $21,831 for extrication equipment. Item 3, consideration of a piggyback agreement in the amount of $40,390,000 to the purchase 9 uninterruptible power supply units for traffic signals from Phoenix Highway Products. Number 4, consideration of a special event application for Halloween in the Hills, presented by the Downtown Merchants and the Town of Fountain Hills Community Services Department, held on October 29th, 2011 on the Avenue of the Fountains. Sections of the avenue will be closed for that event. Number 5 is consideration of special event application for the Great Grape Stomp 5K, presented by the Arizona Wine Growers Association, to be held on November 5, 2011 in and around Fountain Park. Lane restrictions will be in effect on Saguaro Boulevard, El Lago Boulevard, and Panorama Drive during that event. Number 6, consideration of the Wine Festival License Wine Fair License application submitted by Kurt Dunham, Lawrence Dunham Vineyards, for the purpose of wine tasting located at 12925 North Saguaro Boulevard, Fountain Hills, Arizona, Fountain Park area, scheduled to be held November 5th, which is part of the Great Grape Stomp 5K. I think that's after the 5K. They'll be doing the wine tasting. Item 7, consideration of the Wine Festival License, Wine Fair License application submitted by Corey Whalen of Sioux Vino Winery for the purpose of wine tasting located at that same location, scheduled on November 5th, related to the Great Grape Stomp. Item 8, consideration special event application Fountain Hills Festival of Arts and Crafts, presented by the Fountain Hills Chamber of Commerce, to be held November 11th through 13th, 2011, right around the corner, in downtown Fountain Hills. Sections of the Avenue Fountain, Verde River Drive, and Saguaro will be closed for this event from November 10 through 13. Item 9, consideration of approving the special event liquor license application submitted by Robert Schmidt, representing the American Legion, Post 58, on Parkview for the purpose of a fundraiser event held at that Parkview location, scheduled to be held on Friday and Saturday, November 11th and 12th from 9 to 6 p.m. and Sunday, November 13th from 10 to 6 p.m. And the last item on consent is consideration of approving a special event liquor license application submitted by Gisela H. Navone, representing the American Legion Auxiliary 58, located on 16839 East Parkview Avenue, for the purpose of fundraising event to be held on Avenue of the Fountains at La Montana intersection on Friday and Saturday, November 11th and 12th from 9 to 6, and Sunday 13th from 10 to 6. May I get a motion?
Move to.
And second? All right, roll call.
Vice Mayor Dickey? Aye. Mayor Schlum?
Aye.
Councilmember Leger?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson? Aye. Councilmember Cantino?
Aye.
Councilmember Brown?
Aye.
Councilmember Elke?
Aye.
Mayor 7-0.
Excellent, thanks so much. All right, on to our regular items. Item 11, update from Fountain Hills Centennial Committee on local centennial celebration being planned on February 12th, 2012. Mark, how are you?
Fine, sir. Thank you.
Awesome.
Mayor Schlum and members of the council, I'm going to present some opening comments, and then we'll turn it over to Vice Mayor Dickey, who also co-chairs the Centennial Committee with myself. A couple things we wanted to mention, or I wanted to mention before I turn it over to my co-chair. As you know, the group's been meeting now for a number of months. We continue those meetings. One of the things we set aside to do first was identify up to and over 100 different activities that could be conducted locally that would either have a centennial theme or be created specifically to support the centennial. We actually ended up with far more than that 100 items. So we've got a list of those items. Those folks will be recognized at the event that we're going to talk about a little bit later, and deserve some recognition for, sometimes it's something as simple as taking the Chamber of Commerce and creating a theme that it's going to be around the centennial. It's as simple as adding a logo celebrating the centennial on the T-shirts that the runners will have this year. So the group was very imaginative, came up with all kinds of ideas, but so did the community, and that's why we're able to exceed the 100 local events. We are working towards and trying to finalize over the next few months an event that would take place on February the 12th, which is a Sunday in the afternoon. And again, my co-chair will be a lot more specific on those details. We are also finalizing an application that will go to the State Centennial Commission, asking that event that be officially recognized as a local centennial event. And then lastly, I would turn it over to my able co-chair, Vice Mayor Jenny Dickey.
All right,
Thank you, Mark.
Vice Mayor.
Thanks. I wanted to recognize the committee again. Of course, Mark, my able co-chair, Councilman Brown, and Bill Meyer, because we have partners in this. So the school district, Bill Meyer, the superintendent, Judy Comfer from the museum, Jackie Miles, of course, from all of the different organizations that Jackie's involved with, Francesca Carosa with the she representing the chamber and doing those kind of ads and good publicity type of things for us. And as we heard at the meeting we had the other day, Rory Magenti has left his position at Fort McDowell, but I'm happy to say that Gwen Bahi is going to be taking his place on the committee. So we look forward to working with Gwen. I remember her from kids in Fort Peak School, so awesome. We did meet Tuesday, and I'm so glad you mentioned the date, because that's sort of the first thing we wanted to get out is February 12th, 2012. So 2/12/12, and it's going to be 3 o'clock. Now we were kind of looking at 2, but we're pushing it back a little bit, and I'll tell you why in a little while. But just please put that in the back of your minds, 2/12/12, 3 o'clock at the Centennial Circle. The application that Mark was talking about, we're really ready to push that out. We needed to get 3 letters, and we have them. So that's, again, to show them that there are partnerships going on with this. So Jackie and Mark, thank you so much. They did the lion's share on that, and I added my 2 cents in all capitals. Sorry about that. The spreadsheet that Mark was talking about with all the events, and again, we don't know if all 100 will be there and that kind of thing, and right now I'd like to make maybe a little last-ditch effort for people who do want to become involved, if they have something that they can do between now and all next year. But what we'd really like to do is be able to recognize on the 12th. So we're getting a little close on all of that outreach. So if people want to get involved, if we haven't reached out to them yet, they can contact me or Mark, and we'll be happy to speak with them. Mark mentioned the turkey trot, and so this is going to be
It's
like
the
what the
official one,
T-shirt looks
yes.
like, and it has a little thing, Happy Birthday Arizona, Happy 100th Birthday Arizona, February 14th. So all the people that are involved on the 24th, which is Thanksgiving, will be able to wear those T-shirts if they're runners. There are a lot of things that have already actually happened, which is, and those will be recognized also, of course. Let's see, the event, of course, is a big birthday party for the state of Arizona. We're going to have refreshments and entertainment. There'll be some dedications that mean a lot to a lot of people in our town. Cotillo Plaza, and then the Circle, which we should have quite a bit of work, if not everything on this stage will be done on that. The Public Art Committee, I believe, is going to be doing a dedication. So the kids there we were throwing around some ideas about maybe what some of the kids might be able to do. There'll be at least 1 raffle, maybe 2. We want to recognize the sanctioned events, because some events and activities have already been actually sanctioned by the Centennial, including the Circle and the Greening of Downtown. So those folks will be there too. And anybody that's been involved, like say the Coin Club or the Photography Club, they're going to have an opportunity to have a table, and hopefully the weather will be good, because we'd really like to do it outside on the Circle. Have a table, they can have brochures. Some of them, like if they actually sell stuff, they would be able to do that. And hopefully some of the people from the State Commission will be there too. We'll invite them to come, and maybe we'll have some of the official Centennial merchandise available for purchase while we're there. But you can tout your organization, you can get volunteers for the year, you can talk about your activities that are coming up for the year. So, and then afterwards, and part of the reason why we're pushing it maybe from 3 to 5 instead of 2 to 4 was because the Fountain Hills Cultural Civic Association, they have a yearly fundraiser, and so we thought, well, and they've been, helping obviously so much on this, they are going to have their fundraiser that evening. So we thought, well, if we, and it's going to be at the community center, so if people are around, if they feel like they'd like to take part of that, it's not officially part of this event, but they would be able to kind of go from one to the other and not have any time in between that they would, have nothing to do. So that'll be like a reception, and that's certainly voluntary and that kind of thing, but we're really happy to be involved with FHCCA. Again, it's only about 3 months away, which is crazy in itself. So if anybody wants to get involved, if anybody wants to help out or be part of it, please let us know, save the date. And the fact that we're having it on the 12th on the Sunday gives you the opportunity to celebrate with, in the Valley, the City of Phoenix's and other areas that are going to be actually celebrating on Valentine's Day, which is the actual 100th birthday, February 14th. So that's a Tuesday, but we're hitting the weekend. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to ask them. If you have anything to add, Mark?
I would just add that we set it up so that not only is it at the Centennial Circle, but obviously it's adjacent to the community center, so it is a rain or shine event, so we can move indoors. So if they're planning on coming, weather should not detract them from coming.
Thank you.
Great, and we can maybe put a phone number or email up for who should people contact if they want to get involved. Mark,
Either one of us.
what's your phone number, 816?
I won't give you my home
Your
phone.
home number, yeah.
816-5190.
All right.
You can reach me directly, or through email, mmayer, M-A-Y-E-R, @fh.az.gov, G-O-V.
So good. Well, that'd be great to get some more folks even involved. And boy, you've got a lot going on. Lots going on. Thank you for being on the committee.
Thank you.
And thanks to everyone else in the community for helping to make sure Fountain Hills is a great Arizona Centennial celebration on the 12th, right on the birthday. Day after.
2 days before.
2 days before. Oh. 12th,
Valentine's.
14th is Valentine's Day, okay.
You
So a
walking
couple
for your
days
solid
early.
at Valentine's Day?
Probably. No comment. Very good. Any questions about Centennial? Thank you, Jeannie. All right, next item is item 12, consideration of authorizing the interim town manager to execute the agreement with Artistic Land Management, Inc., to perform wash and dam maintenance in the amount not to exceed $132,000. Paul? No, Raymond?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'd like to give you a little background information on this. On August 23rd of this year, we received a business shutdown letter from K Contracting. That was a company that had been doing our landscaping and maintenance on our dams and washes. K Contracting told us that they could not fulfill the remainder of their contract, so town staff immediately released an invitation for bids as our dam and wash maintenance program starts about mid-November. We received 2 bids. One was from a local company. The other was from the company that provides currently provides median and the outer parts of the streets for maintenance, and that was Artistic Land Management, and they were in with the lowest bid at $1,268 per day. This contract was bid on a per day basis. It wasn't necessarily bid on the amount of what was authorized for the project, but on a daily basis. The bid includes the same number of manpower and equipment as that we had with K Contracting, but it came in about $100 less per day. The initial term of the contract is for 1 year with 4 annual renewals. There is an escalation clause in there for about 5%, and that's tied to the Phoenix area CPI. The wash and dam maintenance program provides a multitude of benefits to our community. It provides flood hazard mitigation and fire hazard mitigation, and it provides safe passage through our washes for residents when they need that. It also satisfies key requirements for our EPA and ADEQ issued stormwater permit, because we get to report on there how many acres of washes that we clean, because our washes are part of our stormwater system. The risk analysis, if we don't go forward with this, is that we won't be able to provide that safe environment for those homes that not only border the washes, but surrounding areas as well. There is an ongoing maintenance cost for this yearly that we hope to budget for and get this down to about a 4-year cleaning cycle. Right now we're about 7 years, so if we go in and clean a wash, we're not going to be able to go back in there for another 7 years. And some of the vegetation in there is quite heavy. With that, staff recommends that you authorize the interim town manager to sign the acceptance and offer and notice of the award between Artistic Land Management and the town of Fountain Hills to perform the wash and dam maintenance in not to exceed the amount of $132,000. That I can answer any questions.
Thanks, Raymond. Do we have any speakers on this item?
No, Mayor.
All right. Council, any questions? Councilmember Hanson.
Raymond, does the fire department help prioritize the washes that need to be done, like if there are some that are a higher risk for fire?
Mayor and council members, we have done several walkthroughs with the fire department, and they do help us determine which is the most needed. We have got them on a schedule now, because we have touched at least a major portion of the washes, so we kind of know now where we need to go. And we do have those that are the most appropriate at the front of the schedule.
Thank you. And we've seen in the 430 news that the chain gang's been out working in the washes. Are they participating in this program?
Mayor and council, we were able to secure a grant through Maricopa County for about $10,000. It was a non-matching grant, and we did have the wildland fire crew come in from the Arizona State Forestry Department, and they were able to go in and do an additional 11 acres of some really heavily vegetated washes. The program uses inmates. Those inmates are in a training program that when they graduate from this program and they're released, they will be able to be used as firefighters for wildland fires. So it's a pretty good program. We had some good results with it, and we hope that we will be able to utilize that next year as well to augment some of this.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rauke?
Raymond, I noticed in the price sheet that was submitted, it includes an estimated quantity of 80 days, and it looks like the estimated cost at least is about $101,454, and I know we've set a budget of $132. Could you provide some information as to whether we would go beyond that 80 days if we'd realize the savings with this, based on the price sheet they've submitted?
Mayor and council members, the contractor, the program was bid on a per day basis, and that 80 days was put in there just as a reference point for the people that were participating in the bid process. We had the intention always to take that budgeted amount of money and get our wash maintenance program in a manageable schedule. So we hope that we will be able to use these people past that 80 days to help us with that.
Okay, so you're anticipating using the full 132,000 that's been budgeted then?
Yes, correct. Part of that $132,000 is part of the dam maintenance, which is a separate part of the program, but is folded into the contract.
Right. Hey, one other question, Mayor. I think it would be probably more appropriate for Andrew. The contract that we have, it's for the 1 year, and then there's 4 years of options to renew. How tied is the town to those options to renew? Can we look at additional bids next year and realize an additional savings? Because it looked like, I think, the previous bid that we had, we were paying $100 more a day than what we are with this current one. So if perhaps we can realize some savings, I just have some questions as to how tied we are to renewing with this particular company.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Rauke, typically the way we generally put these contracts together is to meet the state budget law and to not carry over past the end of the fiscal year. So it gives you complete flexibility to terminate at the end of any given year. But if at the end of the year the town manager and the vendor agree to a price that we think is competitive, then we can roll it over for an additional year, or you can send it back out to another bid process.
Would that be something that would come before the council?
In terms of the rollover, it would have to come before council because of the amount of the contract. So if we were going to renew the contract, we'd have to bring it back probably just as an action item without an actual contract. It would be the same contract rolling from year to year. Or if it's a new bid process, it would just be a new IFB.
Thank you, Mayor.
Great. Councilmember Leger?
Thank you, Mayor. As a follow-up question regarding cost, the contract's at $132,000. That's for wash and dam maintenance. With respect to inspection, that's not part of this contract. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And are we handling that under a separate contract, or is our town engineer involved in that? How do we accomplish that?
Mayor and council members, that is done by the Arizona Department of Water Resources. They come out once a year, they do an inspection of all our dams, and then they give us a full written report. The following year, which we will do probably in December, is we will go out and do any corrections that they ask us to do. So the cost of that program is on a separate line item from this.
Very, very good. I was just looking at the budget, and I know we had a total of $150,000 for both the maintenance and the inspection. So I would just want to keep an eye on that, make sure we don't exceed that 150. But obviously, with the maintenance, we're in line with our budget. So thank you.
Raymond, what staff personnel do we have overseeing work such as this, or this work in particular, where they have to have on site, is it 8 people or 5 people 8 hours a day, or 8 laborers for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week? I mean,
Mayor and council members, that will be myself. I will meet with them every day, periodically throughout the day. I'll meet with them at the end of the day, make sure they have the appropriate amount of people and machinery on for that day. It's documented each day. They turn in a report to me. I bump that up against the report that I have done for that day to make sure that they match, and then they get paid appropriately daily for that.
okay. Yeah, it seems it's spelled out pretty clearly in the contract. I just wondered I know they don't oversee their own work,
No.
although they report on it. That is just curious. Thanks, Raymond. Any other questions? Very good. Appreciate it. All right. No one from the public. Can we get a motion on this item, council?
Mayor,
Yes.
move to authorize the interim town manager to sign the acceptance of offer and notice of award between Artistic Land Management, Inc. and the Town of Fountain Hills to perform wash and dam maintenance in an amount not to exceed $132,000.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Any other discussion? All right. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mayor 7-0.
Thanks, Raymond.
Thank you.
All right, item 13, consideration authorizing interim town manager to execute the agreement with Recrete Companies in the amount of $49,915.89 for the installation of pavers in the Centennial Circle. Mark?
Mayor Schlum, members of the council, you may recall that there was a plan that was put forward, a copy of which is in your packet, proposed by the newly created Centennial Circle Committee. Mr. Miles was specifically making the presentation. Council had approved that project, and it also included $75,000 in this year's budget to move ahead with the pavers portion of the project. If you've been by there lately, you notice that the memorials have been placed. The next phase in that process was the installation of pavers. Because of the size of the project and exceeding the $20,000, we went out for bid on the project. We initially had a mandatory pre-bid meeting of which there were 4 potential contractors. We bid the project and actually accepted bids on Tuesday, October the 4th, and there were 3 bids that came forward at that time. And again, you have a copy of the bid packet in your packet. I should say the bid sheet in your packet. I should also mention to you that this price came in significantly below the $75,000, but there are also additional costs that I wanted to make you aware of. Before we put the pavers in, we wanted to make sure that there was electrical lines going in there so we weren't pulling up the pavers. Also that there were water lines that were also needed for the landscaping that was in there. So we're in the process, if you were by lately, we're in the process of doing that work. It's to be concluded tomorrow, but those have added costs to the particular project, specifically not the pavers, but the underground associated with being able to utilize that site. So the plan that Mr. Miles brought forward included not only obviously water to the irrigation system or to the plants, but also low-level lighting to highlight the area as well. So those additional costs, including trenching, conduit, pipe, surveying, there's going to be some additional material that we'll have to add. We're still pulling all those prices together, but also grading of the site. We're looking at probably in the neighborhood of additional $15,000, which still puts us significantly under budget, might be even in excess of that, because we still are looking at trying to bring electrical completely into the site. So there's those costs as well that aren't figured into that number yet. So I wanted the council to be aware of that. As I mentioned, we went through the pre-bid. You got the bid tabs, and staff is recommending the award to Recreate in the amount of $49,915.89. And Mr. Miles is aware of those additional costs.
Thanks, Mark. Anyone from the public on this item?
No, Mayor.
Mark, on this item, were there any local companies that bid on this one? I don't recognize those names.
No, there were no local companies.
On the last bid, on the last item we had, there was a local company. They weren't the low bidder, but we're still making efforts to make sure the local companies are aware of our work.
Yes, we did several things this time. In addition to putting it in the Arizona Business Gazette, we also put it on in 2 editions of the Times, subsequent one after the other edition, and then we also put it on the town's website as well.
All right, good, thanks. All right, for this item, the pavers, any questions, Council?
Just one.
Councilor Maralki.
Mark, you had indicated that there's about $15,000 additional So you're still about $10,000 under the original $75,000 budget?
Yes, and I would just also add to that, we're still looking at trying to bring electrical in, and we're still trying to determine if we need to saw cut or bore underneath the existing sidewalk. Unfortunately, the as-built that were provided weren't accurate, and so based on the as-built, it showed that there were a number of lines that had been stubbed out to the edge of the sidewalk, and that wasn't the case. So we're now looking at electrical that's only available on the back side of the sidewalk, so we need to get it into the circle.
Are there any other foreseeable expenses other than what you've discussed here tonight, such as landscaping or anything else?
Not that we're aware of. The landscaping, again, is not covered under this particular agreement, and obviously, Mr. Miles was here earlier looking for the ability to utilize any remaining funds to help towards the landscaping.
It would certainly be helpful if, and I know you're doing everything you can, pinching every penny, if there was some monies that were left over, if there were any, if Mr. Miles needed to come forward, if there was anything left in this original $75,000 that was allocated, that would be very helpful.
Okay. I should also mention that I want to recognize both Paul Mood and especially Justin Welty from Development Services and specifically from engineering, because there was a great deal of work that they put into this project as well, especially Justin Welty and his Councilmember Tate had mentioned he was able to get a number of items donated, which certainly helped the bottom line.
Good. Mark, on the as-bills, aren't there like substantial conduit on some drawings somewhere, or are those just not there?
We could not locate them. It doesn't appear to us as if they were actually pulled from the box inside the community center. At some point they certainly can be, but we were not able to locate anything that brought electrical other than to those lights. So the way we're going to do it is bring the electrical over and come out of one of the light poles. But it means taking the light pole down, pouring a new base, and then putting a box from there and taking it away from there to feed the rest of the site. Fortunately, it's low voltage, most of it is. We're going to also split off and bring a higher amount of power over to the center of the piece where the power of thought is at. If you recall, we put some electrical boxes in specifically for that purpose when we poured the base for that.
I definitely would want it usable, because that space, the beauty of obviously having it for a centennial is great. But that is a large space, beautiful space, outdoors, and obviously it's great much of the year. I can just see a lot of desire to have events on that space, and power is going to be needed in various places, so I just want to make sure we do that right, and obviously as inexpensively as we can. And I do recall Mayor Miles mentioning the dollars remaining going to landscaping. So we need to keep our eye on making sure there's dollars so we actually have some shade and it looks great. So the plantings, the timeline, I know you guys are moving as fast as you can. With the winter coming, are we going to get our plants in the ground so that we actually have plants before the centennial?
It's my understanding, I talked to Mr. Miles today, he still has plans to do that. The contract here, the bid award, gives them 3 weeks to complete the project, which would conclude roughly in mid-November.
Okay.
So still not too late to do plannings subsequent to that.
Good. It's going to look beautiful. Thanks for all your help and coordination and other staff members. All right. With that, we get a motion to move on item 13.
Mayor?
Councilmember Rauke.
Motion to authorize the interim town manager to execute the acceptance of offer and notice of award between the town of Fountain Hills and Recreate Companies in the amount of $49,915.89 for the installation of pavers for the Centennial Circle.
Second.
And a second. Any other discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Mayor, 7-0.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Mark. Item 14, consideration resolution 2011-45, urging the Arizona Independent Redistricting Commission to reconsider its determination regarding placement of the town of Fountain Hills on the finalized draft 6 congressional district map. I know we'll probably each have perhaps some comments on this. Just for the public's awareness, we met and did discuss this at good length with our neighbors during our Fountain Hills, Fort McDowell, Yavapai Nation joint tribal and town council meeting. And the maps are here as well. Much of the public's probably now aware. These maps, I think, came out now 2 weeks ago. And it made a considerable change, particularly in one of the maps, the congressional district redistricting map. That was what Congressman Schweikert alluded to, where the green area going from Yuma up to northern Arizona and then swinging this arm that swings around through and into Maricopa County and grabbing Fountain Hills away from our neighboring and current congressional district neighbors of Scottsdale and Fort McDowell and those areas. So council was not comfortable with this, so we, at that joint meeting with the Fort McDowell Yavapai Nation, talked to staff, and they've created this resolution for us to consider here tonight. I read it over. I thought it was very well done, and it captured a lot of what the Independent Redistricting Commission uses as their guidelines for creating these new redistricting lines that they have to do every 10 years based on the census and our addition of one additional congressional district. But council, are we comfortable with the letter that was crafted that's in our packet? Are we ready to move forward on that and present it to the Independent Redistricting Commission? Councilmember Dickey.
Thanks,
Vice
Mayor. Were we going to have anybody else sign along with it, like maybe Mayor Lane or President Pateo or President Enos? Or is this just going to be from us?
Go ahead, Councilmember Andrew.
Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, this is actually just the town's version. Knowing as we do how going back and forth between various governments can take time that we didn't have, we felt it was better to get Fountain Hills version up there. We sent this both to Salt River Pima and to Fort McDowell Yavapai as FYI, this is what we're putting out there. We haven't had any communication back and forth with them yet. We're hoping that based upon the discussion at the joint meeting that there would be someone who would be willing to go and speak with the town representative, whoever that might be, at the redistricting commission hearings, which appears to be the only venue that we have over the next 2 weeks.
If I recall, Vice Mayor, the Fort McDowell Yavapai, they're getting together as a council likely on the 22nd, but perhaps they may not be able to get through that item as a council themselves, but they certainly indicated at our meeting, at least the folks that were able to come, the president and vice president, that they were really in favor of this, particularly on the congressional redistricting. And then I think the word is the same from our neighbors at Salt River Pima, Maricopa Indian community as well. And I don't know when they're meeting to move forward on a formal letter themselves, but Fort McDowell, I think, is right behind us. So it's looking like we'll have individual letters all probably shared at about the same time as the IRC goes through the state. And also the council members may have already reached out, and citizens have probably already reached out directly to the IRC through their website or by phone calls. They have a form online that you can comment on. I just sent an email and it was forwarded on, so we can all do that as well to indicate your feelings toward this redistricting. It's quite extensive, and I don't know if Mike Chickarone can zoom in on that map for the folks at home, but the map is also in our packet. Folks can zoom in on it on that PDF, and it's also on the Independent Redistricting Commission's site as well. But you can see on the congressional district map, when you zoom in, you can see that this green color comes out of the Colorado River area and then skirts over the top of Maricopa County and then comes into Maricopa County and then moves beyond us further to the east and then down to the south. So I think we have some very good arguments, obviously not being, with the communities of interest being the one that stands out the most. They want to keep communities of interest in the same congressional district, and obviously we are not Scottsdale, we are not Fort McDowell, but we certainly do a lot together, have MOUs together. Fort McDowell has their kids at our school districts. We do a lot of collaborative work and sharing of information and resources. So tourism, yeah. So, and all those are mentioned in our letter. So I think it should be pretty clear to the IRC to make sure that communities of interest, our neighbors, are connected to the same congressional district. And on the opposite side, they could look at the discrepancy of the cities where we would be paired up with on the new map, and it'd be pretty much all those along the Colorado River, which obviously we don't do a great deal with, although, you know, as Congressman Schweikert mentioned, they're terrific cities. But anything we want to address in the letter as a council. Thank you, Andrew, and whoever worked on that for crafting it. Councilman Ralke.
Mayor, I think it's important if the council approves this resolution that we as council members take it upon ourselves to read this resolution at the various IRC meetings that are coming, or, have staff members that are going there to read this, because it's one thing to type it and mail it off, but I think it's another thing entirely to have someone, our mayor, fellow council members, vice mayor, reading it there at the meeting and expressing in strongest of terms our dissatisfaction with the redistricting.
Absolutely. And so maybe we could ask staff to give us a heads up on those dates and where they're at, and then we can divvy them up. Since we can't communicate too often between one another directly, maybe staff can help us coordinate some good coverage at those meetings. Good. Anything else? Councilmember Leger.
In response to your question, I do feel comfortable moving forward after reading the resolution. I guess the format would be this would be attached to a cover letter and sent, and as Councilman Elke mentioned, actually entered into testimony in front of these hearings. There probably aren't a whole lot of citizens that have had an opportunity or would to have reviewed our rationale for what we're doing. And I think it's important to just highlight some of the key reasons we're moving or suggesting that we move in this direction. And rather than reading through the whole resolution, we've heard a few comments up here, and I would just like to take a minute just to highlight some of, I think, what is atop of our rationale. And as was mentioned, we want to be hooked up with communities of interest, with strong ties in terms of communities where we share culture or business interests. Another thing in the resolution, it talks about, as Councilwoman Hanson mentioned, the notion that we collaborate with the fort, the tribe, with respect to tourism. I think that's a key rationale for remaining in the same congressional district. The other thing we have here, I think, which is really very important, is that we share common school districts between the town and Fort McDowell, and I think that that's a critical rationale. And then, not last, but an additional point I think that's important is we share common interests with respect to infrastructure and infrastructure projects. So if anyone is interested in this topic, I invite you to go to the council packet whereby you can review the whole resolution. But Mayor, those are the things that jump out for me and my rationale for supporting this particular initiative. Thank you.
Yep, good points. And then the other item, one of that items, is shape of the district itself. And obviously, there's, what is it, reasonable district shape. Demonstrate geographical features. So I'm not sure it meets that either. More of a blob, yes, it is. Vice Mayor.
Mayor, thanks. Just quick looking at the dates and times. There are really only two that are in the area. November 1st is in South Phoenix. November 3rd is in Scottsdale. But then we just got an email from Julie today that said that there's a joint legislative committee on redistricting that's going to be looking at it tomorrow morning, Friday, October 21st at 10 a.m. And there's a committee. I don't know who the committee members are right now, but you could find out who they are, and you could also email them. There obviously would be legislators that you could give them this information that we feel a certain way. But the actual opportunities to testify are getting, we're getting down there. So.
All right, Councilman Dickey, maybe you could forward me the if you have the legislators that are in that, so I can get that off tonight or tomorrow morning and to that group, and then we can get the November 1 and 3 covered. Okay. Good, thank you.
Mayor.
Councilman Ralke.
Thank you. If any residents are interested in looking this up and gathering more information, the website for the IRC here in Arizona is azredistricting.org. azredistricting.org. Good. Thank you, Councilman Ralke.
Was there anyone in the public, did I ask for that on this item?
No, sir.
All right. All right, council members, ready for a motion on this item?
Move to approve resolution 2011-45.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Mayor, 7-0.
Thank you. Thanks again for getting that crafted quickly. Next item counts, item number 16, 15, consideration of resolution number 2011-41, authorizing and providing for the town manager or designee to transfer town funds to an irrevocable trust fund to be used to defease and redeem the outstanding Town of Fountain Hills, Arizona Municipal Property Corporation Municipal Facilities Revenue Bond Series 2004, authorizing the execution of a depository trust agreement for the safekeeping and handling of securities and monies to be used to pay the bonds being defeased, and ratifying the actions of all officers and agents of the town and others with respect to the transfer, repayment, defeasance, and redemption. Who am I turning this one over to? Julie? Julie.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Back in 2004, when the town built this town hall, we issued bonds called the MPC bonds that are repaid through the local sales tax. In the beginning of 2011, when we were preparing the budget for this current fiscal year 11-12 that we're in, it became obvious that there was likely going to be a surplus in the general fund. And what we wanted to do was take advantage of that surplus, which was only going to be a one-time thing. It was not something that was going to be every year, and to free up the debt payment, the annual debt payment on the town hall, to use those surplus funds to pay off the bonds. So this resolution is authorizing us to transfer the money, take the money from the surplus and put it into a trust account, which will be used to defease or pay off these bonds over the in the next couple of months. Some of the sources of where we're going to pay off those bonds is about a $2.9 million. There's going to be $1 million that was left over from the general fund this current fiscal year. That came from when we prepared the budget for 10-11, we were unsure of the economy, and so I had included a $300,000 contingency in the event that the economy did not recover. That portion obviously was not used, so that's going to be available for paying off the bonds, in addition to some development fee funds that are there that we'll not be able to use or collect any longer after January 1, about $500,000. There's also some surplus excise tax revenues, about $500,000 there. And with that, it's about $2.9 million, and it would pay off those bonds. That would then free up $350,000 that would be available in the general fund this current year and moving forward. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I think it's clear the bonds that we're paying off or paying off the note to build town hall.
Correct, Mayor.
All right. And how many more years of that remain on that bond or on the payment schedule for these bonds?
If we didn't pay them off, they would be going till 2021.
Okay. Anyone on the public on this item?
No, Mayor.
All right, council, any questions? We've talked about this a little bit through the budgeting, but Councilmember Elke, I think, brought it up, so give you some credit there, and maybe you want to talk to this item as well. But Vice Mayor, you had your hand up first.
Mayor, thank you. Julie, is the excise tax reserves the same as the debt service reserves? I was looking back when we actually talked about these things and trying to remind myself what the conversation was. And so what are the excise tax reserves? Mayor, Vice Mayor, yes, it's the same thing. We allocate certain money over into the MPC debt service, but it is excise taxes. Thank you.
Good question. Councilmember Elke.
Yeah. One additional thing to mention too is by paying this off early, we're saving about $276,000 on interest on serving this debt if we had paid it over the remaining 10 years of this loan. So that's money, additional monies that we're saving. And I think it's great. I mean, we're going to own our house. We're going to own our town hall. So I think that's wonderful. So I hope the residents appreciate the fact that we're being responsible in this sense and using the monies to pay down the debt that we have. So I think that's very important. I think it's commendable for all of us as well. Thank you.
Good, and I've got to lift up staff. $1 million surplus last year, and a tough year. I mean, can you speak to that, Julie?
Yes, Mayor. As we said, we had allowed for a contingency last fiscal year because we weren't sure of the economy. Obviously, the economy did better, both at the state level and at the local level. So the state ended up with a surplus, as did the town of Fountain Hills. The only thing is, because we have, for this current year that we're in now, we can't expect that to continue because we lost population from the census. So that was a one-time surplus that we would have in the general fund. So we're, again, that makes it available for us to use.
Good, thank you. Yeah, that $1 million or so from the census numbers, there, 800 and some, plus some other ancillaries, probably over $1 million difference from one year over the other. But nonetheless, $1 million in innovations and being very vigilant on spending, it obviously added to having that surplus. So job well done there, allowing us to use a considerable portion of that is to pay off this building. So that's terrific. Vice Mayor.
Mayor, thanks. I also wanted to, when you mentioned staff, was that we originally also looked at using possible capital funds, for a last little bit to get us over the top, and we avoided having to do that. I really appreciate that.
Good. Anyone else, council, any questions on this item? Very good. All right. Actually, let me get them. There's a specific motion on this one. Councilor Elke, you want to make a motion?
Sure. Motion to approve Resolution 2011-41 to authorize the interim town manager to transfer funds to an irrevocable trust, easy for me to say, trust fund to be used to defease and redeem the outstanding town MPC bonds, Series 2004.
Second.
And we have a second. Good. Any other discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Mayor, 7-0.
Thank you very much. Item 16, council discussion direction, interim town manager. Nothing there. And item 17, summary of requests, reports of recent activity by our interim town manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Some things for me to follow up on is to get the number of complaints from Cox Cable and provide that to the council, as well as provide the public with a phone number for customers to call if they have issues with Cox and are having difficulty getting those resolved, and we will also put that on the website. Also, phone number and email for people who want to participate with the Centennial event celebration, giving out Mark Mayer's phone number as well as the website for the town. And then a heads up to the council on the dates, the upcoming dates of the redistricting meetings.
Awesome. Thanks a bunch. I want to mention coming up next week, we got the Business Expo at the Community Center on the 26th. Always popular with the residents. That's the Business Expo on Wednesday, the 26th, from 3 to 7 at the Community Center. And then a great event at our neighboring area, McDowell Mountain Regional Park's having a day at the park from 10 until 3. A lot of organizations in Fountain Hills are participating in that. And check out the McDowell Mountain Regional Park's website for all the details there. There's a lot going on. I encourage everybody to go. If you haven't been out to McDowell Mountain Regional Park, it's a gem just straight north of town. Get out there. That's a good day to do it. And our neighbors at Fort McDowell mentioned when we met in our joint meeting that they've got their 30th Orem Dam Victory Days coming up not until November 18th through the 20th. And they invite everybody to come out to a whole bunch, not just the parade, but a whole bunch of events, including rodeo and powwow and dancing. So go check out our neighbors if you haven't gotten to know them and enjoy their culture right next door in November 18th through 20th. And then, of course, we have the great fair coming up and Veterans Day. So lots to do. Oh, Halloween, my goodness, Halloween is going to be also on the 29th of October right down here on the avenue from 4 to 8. Lots of activities up and down the avenue for kids. And then there's the carnival going on there as well. So a very busy time, so make sure you're plugged in. Look for a motion to adjourn. All right, no one wants to leave. We got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Have a great one. Thank you very much.